back to Lehi Mills YouTube channel. I'm so excited about today's recipe. We are using our cinnamon oatmeal cookie mix, and we are making Carmelitas. One of my favorite cookies, and it's a bar, and it makes it super simple for any family get together or picnic or barbecue that you have in the summertime. They are so delicious and so easy using our mix. So first you take 3 cups of our cinnamon oatmeal cookie mix, and I'm never too precise with measuring. So there's 1, 2, there's 3. So you take that and you add not softened, never hard butter, but melted butter to 3 cups of this mix. Let me add that. You're gonna mix that up until it combines. I'm gonna tell you, this is the easiest thing to have in your pantry. If, you know, all of a sudden you get a call last minute that you need to take a dessert to a party, this is it. This is the first thing that is gone when I've taken it to a lot of parties. So anyway, you get it well combined, and I'll show you what that looks like. So it's gonna look like this when you get that mixed, just those 2 ingredients. So it's all combined. You're gonna take half of it and put it in the bottom of a pan. But first, do not forget, because we are using caramel, to grease your pan. We are using an 8x8, so let me get it greased and I'll be right back. So you take half, and I always kind of eye it, and you'll know if you have enough, and you just, again, with my hands, we're all family here, right? So you push that down and you get it all in the corners as much as you can. You can use, if I take it to parties, I will use like a rubber like this. You can use if you don't like to touch cookie dough or whatever you're making. But these are for my family. It's gonna feel a little thin, but I promise, as it bakes, it puffs up and it'll be the right amount on the bottom of your pan. So I'm gonna go put that in the oven and I'll be right back. I'll start the timer for 10 minutes. So you par bake that for 10 minutes. And in the meantime, I'm gonna go over to the stovetop and melt the caramel. Now, caramels can come pre-wrapped, and everyone knows Kraft from making carameled apples. You can unwrap those. You need about 11 ounces of caramel. Or you can use those caramel bits that came out, those melt down, and you add, I believe it's 11 ounces of caramel to a ½ cup of cream. So I'm gonna start melting that. So as it melts, it's gonna feel like it will never melt, but it actually starts to melt pretty quickly. So you should never leave caramel on a hot stove, because if you overcook it, it will turn rock hard. And you don't want that. You just wanna melt it down at a low temperature, and it'll slowly combine as it melts, and it'll be perfect. Once it turns smooth, you take it off the heat and let it sit till the next part. So it is fully incorporated and melted down. So you really don't want it to boil, because that changes the consistency. So take it off the heat, and we're gonna set it aside for the next step. Okay. So that first layer is baked halfway. Now, what you do is, you can go anywhere from 10 ounces of chocolate chips to 12. I like 10, I feel like that's the perfect amount, but if you like them more chocolatey, go for it. You can also use semi-sweet or milk, and today we are using semi-sweet. So a lot of people don't like semi-sweet because it's too, not as sweet, but I like it because the caramel kind of balances out that balances that out. So basically you take it and you put them in, and you really don't need to worry about them. As they bake in the next phase, they will melt perfectly. So after you layer that out and make sure it's, you know, as even as possible, you take this caramel that you melted down and you just pour it over the chocolate. And make sure you're really careful with this and not have kids around, because caramel gets hot and it stays hot for a long time. So just be really careful, because I know my grandkids, they like to be right in it and help a lot. So this pan is perfect to melt caramels because it has a spout on it, but you really don't need that. It's just a nicety. So you pour that all over the chocolate chips and get it as even as possible over the chocolate chips. And that also helps melt the chocolate chips before they go in the oven. Now remember, if you melt the caramel ahead of time and it starts to harden, you can always put it back on the stove, but do not bring it to a boil, because it'll change the consistency to more of a hardtack and chewy, and you might pull the filling out if you're not careful. Now we are back to this last half of the dough. All you have to do is take it, and I like to kind of sprinkle it, which sounds weird because it's a wet dough, but I just run it through my fingers and I just start putting it on. And I like some caramel showing through. Sometimes that's doable, but sometimes I cover the whole top because I didn't measure it out quite right, but that's okay. They all taste the same. And be really careful if you get close down into it. I've made the mistake where the caramel, I've accidentally hit that with my finger, and if anyone knows, kitchen burns will hurt for a while, so just be really careful. And if you don't like to do it this way, you can also pick it up and make it into like a patty and lay it on. But I kind of like the rustic look, and when it bakes anyway, it puffs up and it'll probably fill in all those voids for the most part. So now we take this and we put it back in the oven for 15 minutes. Pulled it out and it is done, and it smells delicious. So for YouTube purposes, I pre-cooked one yesterday because it has to cool down before you cut into it for a party. Now you could make these individual and put ice cream on it, and then it wouldn't matter what your cuts look like. But it's always easier to cool down your cookie bars. So I just cut them into, little squares. I never worry about getting them even, just because I'm not a perfectionist. And I think any cookie is delicious. And I'm telling you, you take these to a party and they will be gone. So let us know what you think about this. Okay, bye.